Hello guys and girls, welcome to the Be More podcast. This is Jack Williams and I am very excited for today's episode, guys. Basically today I just wanted to sit and talk. It's going to be quite a short podcast today, although I do say that every single time. But today I just wanted to talk about some of the things that often are asked me in my journey. Like, for example, I've had several people visit the house recently. And they'll come into the living room, and in the living room is where I've got my bookshelf. Okay, guys. And when I started to read, as you imagine, I didn't have a bookshelf. It was just one book, right? But through time and I'll probably read maybe, let's say, between 10 and 20 pages of a book per day. And it might take me 20 minutes of my day, okay? So 20 minutes isn't really a lot of time. But from doing that now for the last, probably since I was 25, I've done that. More or less every single day. There's very rare a day that I'll miss, because I do it normally in the morning before the life really gets in the way. It's like a habit that I've got in the morning, and I like to sometimes read before bed if I'm not too sleepy, as it helps me get to sleep. So yeah, that's basically what I've done now for the last 5 years. So if you add that up, it averages to be almost like a book every 1 to 2 weeks, okay? So if you add that up, if you think of, let's say it's a book every month, 12 books a year would then equal over 5 years, 60 odd books. Now my bookcase has probably got maybe 150 books in it or whatever. So people come in and they're like, how do you read? How have you read all these books? And they look at it at like a big bookshelf. It is quite tall. It's like the height of the ceiling. It's got a lot of books in there. And I'll just be like, well, I'll just read a little bit each day. And some people don't really understand like how that compounds over time. Now, the compound effect is so real in everything that I've ever achieved really in my life. It hasn't come down to massive amounts of action in like a short amount of time. It's more a case of small things done consistently over time. Like a good example would be, here's a great example. The other day I went for a run. Running down the beach, this actually wasn't the other day, it was about a year ago, but it made me think about this philosophy. There was this guy who was he was doing sprints, okay? So he would do a burst of action, knacker himself out, and then he would walk for a little bit. And then he'd do a burst of action, knacker himself out, and then he'd walk for a little bit, and he'd sit on the bench. Then he'd do a burst of action, whereas I was just plodding. I was just having a little jog, normal speed, just a little jog pace. I did 10 kilometers. And I just kept going past him to the point where I got so far in front, no matter how many times he sprinted, he weren't keeping up with me, right? Because I didn't stop, whereas he kept stopping. And I think this is the problem most people have, is they'll start to introduce these habits because they want to become better. They might start to read, or they might start to listen to some things that are more positive, or they might start a new business and they start for a little bit, or they might start exercising and they go to the gym for a week or so, or they might start eating healthier for a few days. And then old habits seem to creep back in because they've not sold themselves enough on the payoff of them doing that small thing consistently over time. Now, I knew when I first started to read, because I read books early on that were explaining this philosophy to me. Like I read one of the first books I properly sat down and read was a book called The Slight Edge. Now, The Slight Edge is an amazing book. It's similar to The Compound Effect. My favorite book when it comes to habits is Atomic Habits. So if you haven't read that, I'd really, really recommend it. And I kind of live my life around Atomic Habits. By the way, I don't get everything right. So for example, the last 50 odd days, since the start of this year, I've started a program called 75 Hard that I'm doing. I wanted to try something different. Robin said, let's do it. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. So I've been training every day so far this year, twice a day. The second workout is normally always a walk. I would just not recover if I was doing 2 full-on workouts a day. But I've noticed I'm getting sore. Now, what I was doing last year, what was something I wanted to do for a while, was daily stretching. okay, because I was starting to get quite tight, because I'm getting older now. I've been training for a long time. I was starting to get a little bit tighter in my body. I was like, I'm gonna have to start stretching. And that's what I went to CrossFit. They were like, you need to become more mobile, invest a bit of time in stretching. So I was like, right, great, no problem. I'll do 15 minutes a day. I know that within 90 days I'll be a lot better. And I did. I got really actually quite flexible, not massively, but for me I was quite flexible. And then I stopped doing it. I lost the habit. I stopped going to CrossFit. I started going back to the gym again. I stopped doing it so regularly. And as a result, last night I was sat there and I thought, I feel so tight. Started to get my massage gun on me, and then started to stretch. And I was like, this stretch feels so painful compared to how the stretch used to feel after 90 days of doing it regularly. Okay, it's the things that you do consistently, and you can apply this to any area of your life. And I remember I was doing like a bit of a life admin check a few years ago, and I was like, right, I want to be in the best shape all the time. What habits do I need to have in place for this to be for this to happen? Because our results are just a lagging effect of our habits, right? So I was like, right, if I can keep up a minimum of 10,000 steps a day, strong nutrition plan, and good exercise program, I'm going to be in great shape all the time. I'm allowed to treat every now and again, but not most of the time, like 90% of the time, if I'm doing this plan, I'm going to be in a great shape. And if you go back through now, my health app, my steps have been 10,000 nearly every day for the last 4 years, right? Very rarely do I miss, because it's become a habit for me. And because I sold myself on the result. I knew that if I just did these little things, the lagging result would be very clear, because we are our habits. We become our habits, right? And it was the same with my income. I was like, in my business, I thought, if I do these things consistently over time, this is going to be the outcome. No matter how bad I am, regardless of my skills or whatever, if I do this one activity daily, the result is going to be inevitable, and through time I'm going to get better at doing the activity, because it's just doing the reps, right? It's just putting in the work, it's just doing the numbers. So I started to then look at all of the goals in my life and thought, right, here's the goal. What habits do I need to have in place daily that make that goal a reality? Very simple, right? So sometimes people have these like ideas or these goals, and then I'm like, great, so what's your plan? What are you going to do to make that goal a reality? What have you got in your imagination? And they're like, or what are you doing daily? And they don't really know. They're not really connecting the dots between the things they have to do and that outcome that they desire. Like, for example, I'm chatting to a guy at the minute, Jack, I want to lose a stone. I'm like, great, what's your nutrition habits at the moment? And his answer was, well, I don't eat all day and then I'll binge in the evening. I was like, great, so we need to make some changes, right? And I said to him, that's what we're going to do. And he's excited about the idea of following a bit more of a plan that's going to help him give his body what he needs, put him into a calorie deficit, lose the stone, build some good habits so they can keep the result long term, right? So it's very simple, but if you can say, oh yeah, I want to lose a stone, I'm like, great, what's your plan? They're like, well, I'm just going to start going to the gym or whatever. And a lot of people have this misconception. They automatically think of exercise when it comes to losing weight, when 80% of the result comes from nutrition. So he's done the right thing and come to see me and said, look, let's sort this out. And then I'll start to implement the other habits from there. But always think about this. And I'm actually holding open a page in Atomic Habits. And I'm going to read a bit to you guys, because this is a page that really hit me. And I thought, this is so good. So this is from James Clear, okay, Atomic Habits, page 23. It says, forget about goals, focus on systems instead. So prevailing wisdom claims that the best way to achieve what we want in life, getting into better shape, building a successful business, relaxing more and worrying less, spending more time with friends and family, is to set specific, actionable goals. For many years, this was how I approached my habits too. Each one was a goal to be reached. I set goals for the grades I wanted to get in school, for the weights I wanted to lift in the gym, for the profits I wanted to earn in business. I succeeded at a few, but I failed at a lot of them. Eventually, I began to realise that my results had very little to do with the goals I set and nearly everything to do with the systems I followed. What's the difference between systems and goals? It's a distinction I learned from Scott Adams, the cartoonist behind Dilbert Comic. Goals are all about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. Boom. So good. So guys, I hope that you guys have opened your eyes a little into thinking. And by the way, I want you to just maybe shut your eyes while you're listening to this and just think about what your goal is, because it's important to have it, right? It says there, forget about the goals and focus on the systems, but the goal is key, because that's the driver, that's the why, that's the engine, right? That's the reason you're doing this. So for me, let me talk you through my reasons to help you with your imagination for why I do something like I read 10 pages a day, or even all of the habits that I have right now. They are, for me, driven by a real strong purpose. They're driven by a real strong why, because it can be quite easy not to read the 10 pages. It can be quite easy to not get up early and go to the gym and skip a few of those habits, be like, oh, that's right, I'll just do it tomorrow. But when you've got a real reason, a real why, a real purpose driving you to do these things because it's something that you really want, then you do it, right? And for me, I'm getting to the point now where I'm 30 next month. I've mentioned it quite a few times on this podcast because it is on my mind quite a bit, and I'm getting a little bit older. And one of the main things that's driving me right now is the reality that in a few years' time, I'm going to be a dad. And for me, it's really important for me to be the best I can be. When I bring someone into this world who's a little version of me, my goal is to be the best possible example. And the work I do now will create the person I'll be in the 2 or 3 years' time when me and Robin decide to have kids. So for me, I'm doing the work now because that's my reason. That's my why. Whereas I think a lot of people, they don't ever do that. They never decide why they're doing something. And the why is the engine room. The why is the reason. The why is what's going to get you to do the things that sometimes aren't too comfortable, that sometimes you don't really want to do, that sometimes you can do without. And this is where neglect starts to come in, because you neglect the things that you know you should probably do, but you don't. And the cost is fortunes. The cost is your happiness. The cost is your shape, your health. The cost can be so costly. But the sacrifice is so worth it. But to sometimes make that sacrifice happen, you've got to set a real strong reason. You've got to know why you're doing this. And often you've got to remind yourself of this. The goals are something that I write down every morning, every evening. Like, that's how it's my bookend to my day. It's writing down my goals and being like, this is what I want to achieve. So now I know and I understand the process is, and it's about systems set in place to make that goal just a matter of time, because I have full faith that if I do the work, if I stick to the system, it's just a matter of time, because I can leverage the system to help me become that goal, because that's as much as it is. So I hope you guys have got value from this. And by the way, I really, really, really appreciate all of the positive feedback I get on this podcast. You guys who share this on your Instagram stories, you're amazing. I try to reply to every single person that I can who does that. And if you've left a review, I really do appreciate it, because I do this. I don't get paid to do this. I don't get any advertisements or whatever. I only do this just for me to really voice some of the things that I've learned in my journey, hoping that other people can maybe get something from it, get some insight, get some value, because I do genuinely believe that there's a lot of people out there that are hurting a little bit in life, like I maybe was a few years ago, and they just need a little voice like mine maybe to be like, do you know what, you can achieve anything you want to do in your life. Because I genuinely believe that now. I never used to. I used to think that success or certain things in life were just for certain lucky people who had a break, right? But the reality is it's not true. Success, anything you want, anything you really can like decide that you want. Most people never even go there. Most people don't even have a reason why they're doing what they're doing. But if you can decide what you really want on a goal, you can do it. Nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. You just got to decide, are you willing to make the sacrifices to go and achieve that type of result? Because everything is possible, but you've just got to decide that you're willing to do the work. So hopefully you guys have got value from today. Please do share your feedback with me. And if you can share this on your stories, I would really, really appreciate it. Maybe share it with your friends and family if you think they might get something from it too. And last top tip, by the way, whilst I speak about friends and family, is share some of the habits that you want to implement with them. Because it can maybe really can help them to help you to stay on track. Like, for example, I often get Robin to hold me accountable to do certain things that are not quite habits for me yet, like stretching, for example, like doing my massage gun. These are things that I've become complacent with. So I'm like, Robin, make sure I do that. So she nudges me like to make sure that I do the things that maybe aren't quite habitual for me just yet, right? So use the people around you to help you with this and explain the why to them. But look, this is what I really want to do. And this is what I've learned from this podcast. Maybe you should listen to it as well so you understand where I'm at. But this is where I want to be. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better man. I want to be whatever you're thinking, right? I want to make more money. I want to have more money in the bank. I want to have more experience I want to take us to Miami. Whatever you're thinking, right? I want to buy us a bigger house. This is the things that I think I need to implement for that to happen. Are you going to support me with this? And can you support me with this? I'd really appreciate it if you did. I'm doing this for us. Do you know what I mean? That type of conversation, because it can make a massive difference in your relationship, in your success in achieving the habit and achieving the goal, and seeing it through. So get people on side, guys, and just get after the things that you want. But anyway, thanks for listening. Enjoy your day, and I'll catch up with you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.